The Seattle Mariners front office and ownership group waste no time to go out and get their number one target this offseason. They signed first baseman Josh Naylor to a 5-year extension. The number right now that's floating around is $90 to $100 million. I had been predicting, 5 years, $100 million since like August. The final number will likely come out tomorrow on Monday once the physical is complete and once the club officially announces the deal. But it was breaking tonight from Jeff Passan. 5 years, the Seattle Mariners get their guy. And since the very start of the offseason, since that media availability, Justin Hollander really made it clear that Josh Naylor is their priority guy, that they're going after him. And we have to give credit where credit is due. John Stanton and this ownership group pulled out their checkbook. They are writing the checks and committing the money to Josh Naylor over the next 5 years. And as we'll get into here in a bit, this is the largest free agent signing for a hitter that this front office has signed since Jerry Dipoto took over back in 2015. This is heading into his 11th offseason running the ship for the Mariners. But Jerry and Justin are wasting no time to play some Moneyball this offseason. And speaking of Moneyball, check out this new Baseballism collection that just released. It's the Moneyball collection. I'm going to pick up one of these tees. Use code CouchGM-15 for 15% off your order. Baseballism, Moneyball, hit tanks, make bank, and now Josh Naylor is making bank. This snip here is from Daniel Kramer of MLB.com, and it states that once official, as I mentioned, it will be the richest free agent contract for a position player in Seattle since Mariners president of baseball operations, Jerry Dipoto, took over after the 2015 season. The previous high was a 2-year, $24 million deal given to Mitch Garver in the 2023-24 offseason. And of course, there have been 2 hitter contracts signed larger than this deal, but none has been larger as a free agent signing. Of course, Julio was signed to an extension of something like $209 million on the low end. Cal Raleigh was just signed to a 6-year, $105 million contract in spring training last year. The strategy under the Dipoto oversight clearly has been draft, develop, and trade, and very little has it having to do with free agents. In total, they've actually signed 16 free agents over the 10 years. That's 7 bats and 9 arms. The average contract length for a free agent signed is 1.5 years. The average contract length for a hitter is 1.43 years, and the average contract length for an arm is 1.56 years. And only Robbie Ray had been signed to a guaranteed contract for longer than 3 years. As you can see, obviously the most lucrative contract was Robbie Ray for 5 years, $115 million. Second place was Yusei Kikuchi. And then beyond that, it's basically a bunch of 1, maybe 2-year deals. So Josh Naylor's 5-year deal for a free agent hitter will blow all of these other contracts out of the water. And actually, over his 10 off seasons up to this point, Jerry Dipoto and his front office has committed a guaranteed $49.5 million in total to the 7 free agent bats that have been signed over his 10 seasons. So Josh Naylor's contract, once this is confirmed, will likely be more guaranteed money than all of the other free agent hitters combined. And so Naylor, once he signs, will become the first player this offseason to sign a major league free agent contract. And according to sources, the Mariners initiated the discussions with Naylor's representatives at Independent Sports and Entertainment during the general manager's meeting in Las Vegas last week, with the framework of a deal coming together on Friday and the finalization on Sunday. So both parties were definitely intrigued to get something done. And Naylor has been vocal that he loves playing in Seattle, that he enjoys the fans, that he actually likes to hit in T-Mobile Park, which you just don't hear from hitters in general. He stated, quote, "I love playing there. It's been super awesome. I've gotten so many compliments from friends who have watched me play or ex-teammates I've played with, or even just opponents I'm playing against, like how awesome it is in Seattle and how cool the fan base is and how they just ride or die Seattle, and it's super awesome to be a part of." And Josh will be a part of it for many years to come. So here is the Mariners end-of-year lineup for 2025. As you can see here, Josh Naylor had a 128 weighted runs created plus on the year, but with the Mariners, he had a 137 weighted runs created plus. His bat was 37% above the league average hitter during his time with the Mariners, and he finished off with a 295 average, 20 home runs, and 30 stolen bases, which is unheard of for a first baseman. And with no first baseman coming up through the Mariners system, this is the perfect signing. That was going to be a hole at first base no matter what heading into next year. And now the assumption for the Mariners 2026 opening day payroll is that they should be around where they ended in 2025, which is somewhere around $166 million in total. These numbers here are all pre-Josh Naylor, so this 5 guaranteed contracts is going to turn into 6 contracts, likely totaling $94 million here instead of $74. You then have the arbitration contracts of 43, pre-arb of 15.58. That equals 133.15. Add in Andres Munoz's $7 million club option. That gets you to about $140.15 million in total payroll for opening day. You add in Josh Naylor's probably around $20 million, and that gets you to about $160 million, which now gives you about $6 million left over for free agency moving forward, unless you were to trade some players and get rid of some bigger contracts. So here were the big name free agents prior to the Josh Naylor signing. This is all sorted by market value. Josh Naylor was 7th here in market value. They had an estimate, this is Spot Track, of about $15 million per year. I had certainly assumed, and some other sources were starting to put out numbers to where, I mean, he's got to be making more than $15 million, especially with him being 28.3 years old. He won't turn 29 until June of next year. This is his first time heading into free agency. This is the prime of his career. It doesn't really matter that he's a first baseman. He brings a ton of value to a team, and so I thought he would demand somewhere around a 5-year contract. Now here's the remainder of the MLB free agent market on the hitting side after Josh Naylor's signing, and of course this is again sorted by market value. I really don't think a reunion with Eugenio Suarez is likely to happen. I think potentially Jorge Polanco here, which they have him up now in the $14.5 million market. Jorge Polanco had that player option this last year for $6 million, which he declined. His price certainly went up after showing off the clutch factor throughout the playoffs and really in the regular season too. A big part of Jorge Polanco though is if he's going to be able to play second base for the Mariners, or if he's going to be having to play DH. If Jorge Polanco is fully healthy, I think he could play second base, but realistically, with how much money the Mariners have to work with the rest of this offseason, if they were to sign Polanco, that's probably your last big move that you're making. In that case, he would likely be your DH next year with Cole Young at second base, unless you were to trade someone like Luis Castillo in his contract and then go out and get Kyle Schwarber, put him at DH, put Jorge Polanco at second base. If you watch my offseason preview from the other week, I talked about adding Kyle Schwarber and Jorge Polanco, but obviously that is certainly a pipe dream. But like I described, Josh Naylor will not turn 29 until June of 2026. He is in the prime of his career. This contract will take him through his age 33 season, and he's had a track record of consistency dating back to 2022 with Cleveland. He had a 118 weighted runs created plus, then in 23, 127, a 118, and then this past year in total he had a 128. With the Diamondbacks, he was a 122. He came to Seattle, had a 137, and then in the playoffs with the Mariners, he had a 176 weighted runs created plus. Now this is his baseball savant profile, and when you look at his stats over here, as you can see, he's certainly an average hitter, which you absolutely love to see on the Mariners team. They have a ton of swing and miss, a lot of home run or nothing in their lineup. So to have a guy that has consistent bat to ball skills is great. In 2023, he finished with a 308 batting average. He had 17 home runs that year. And then in 2024, it looks like he's sold out for power. His average dropped to 243. He hit 31 home runs. But then again, this past year, he finished with a 295 batting average. It looks like he even back out his approach. He hit 20 home runs instead of the 31. And then he added the stolen base game to his arsenal, which came out of nowhere. And what's funny is you look at his sprint speed. He was in the 3rd percentile in overall sprint speed, and yet he ended up with 30 stolen bases. I think the stat was he was perfect in stolen bases on the year, or 26 in a row of stolen bases, something like that, something crazy. But really, his batting average is always going to be up there. He's squaring up balls. He's not striking out a ton. He played some solid defense. His range, his outs above average were in the 80th percentile at first base. And as you can see from his home run chart here, he's a pull home run guy. When he gets into his power, it's going to be to the pull side, but he hits the ball all over the field and for average. So now again, this is assuming that this is a 5-year, $100 million contract, $20 million per year. There's now guarantees that Naylor, Cal, and Julio will all be in your lineup through the 2030 season. Again, he's signed through age 33. And like I described at the beginning, adding $20 million gets the Mariners opening day payroll for 2026 up to $160 million. And now, again, like if you saw my offseason preview, this is somewhat my ideal opening day lineup for the infield. Of course, J.P. Crawford is still a shortstop right now, but you have to find a spot for Colt Emerson, who's going to be playing his way onto the opening day roster through spring training. Cole Young likely is going to be there at second base. I think Ben Williamson is a perennial Gold Glover. You got to have him at third base. The Platinum Dumper at catcher, and then we secured Josh Naylor. So, J.P. Crawford at shortstop. It would clearly make sense to go out and get another bat to start at third base or second base, someone that's a veteran that has a little more reliability. Or do you just let the rookies and the young guys get after it and just ride the roller coaster of being in their first or second year and just add at the deadline if you need to? But Jerry is cooking, and I'm liking what I'm seeing so far. So with that, of course, we'll have to wait and see what the actual details and the final numbers of this contract are. But if you have any thoughts or opinions, let me know in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe to the Couch GM for all things Seattle Mariners. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.